What if I told you that right now, while diplomats from the United States and Iran are sitting across from each other in Oman trying to save a nuclear deal, America's most destructive weapons on the planet are already parked within striking distance of Iranian soil? Not on their way. Not being considered. Already there. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand something that most people will never know. You will understand exactly what America moved, where it moved it, and why Iran's most protected nuclear facilities may not be nearly as safe as the world has been told. Most people look at the Iran nuclear talks and see diplomacy, handshakes, press releases, two countries trying to avoid a war. But most people completely miss what is happening in the background. You see, the United States military does not wait for negotiations to succeed. It prepares for negotiations to fail. And that preparation tells you more about where this crisis is really heading than anything any diplomat has said in public. The weapons being positioned right now are not cruise missiles on destroyers. They are not fighter jets on a carrier deck. They are 30,000-pound bombs carried by aircraft that Iranian radar literally cannot see, designed to drill through 200 feet of reinforced concrete and detonate inside a mountain. But here's the part that changes everything. There is one Iranian facility that American military planners have called the hardest target on Earth. And the question of whether the most powerful conventional weapon ever built can actually destroy it, that answer is still classified. Keep watching, because what I'm about to tell you next is the part that nobody is talking about. Most people think a bomb is a bomb. You drop it, it explodes, things are destroyed. But the weapon at the center of this story does not work like that. It does not just explode, it thinks. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weighs 30,000 pounds. Heavier than a fully loaded school bus. 20 feet long. Built for exactly one purpose: to destroy targets buried so deep that no other weapon in the American arsenal can reach them. To start, the casing is not steel. It is a special high-strength alloy, thick enough that when it hits reinforced concrete at supersonic speed, it does not shatter. It punches through. But the casing alone isn't enough. The bomb contains a computer-controlled fuse that counts layers as it punches through them. Concrete, air gap, more concrete. It waits, actively, intelligently waits, until it has passed through multiple layers and reached the target chamber before detonating. It penetrates more than 200 feet of reinforced concrete before it goes off. But here's the part that changes everything. Only one aircraft in the world can carry the GBU-57. Not the F-35, not the F-15, not even the B-52. Only the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, and each B-2 can carry just 2 of them per mission. And right now, B-2 bombers have been confirmed at Diego Garcia. But wait, because what I'm about to tell you next is the part that nobody is talking about. Diego Garcia does not appear on most maps. It is a tiny coral atoll in the middle of the Indian Ocean, 1,000 miles from the nearest landmass. No civilian population, no tourists, no independent media. But every military analyst in the world watches it obsessively. Because when America is serious about striking somewhere, Diego Garcia is where it sends the bombers first. The island sits 2,600 miles from Iran, well within B-2 strike range. A mission from Diego Garcia to Iran and back, with aerial refueling, has been wargamed hundreds of times. Moving B-2 bombers there is not routine. These aircraft cost $2.1 billion each. They require climate-controlled hangars, specialized crews. The Pentagon does not make that decision unless it believes there is a real probability those bombers will be used. On top of that, satellite imagery analysts have documented munitions handling equipment at Diego Garcia. The specific loading cranes required for weapons in the GBU-57's weight class, support aircraft for long-range missions. This is not a drill. To understand what America is aiming at, you need to understand what Iran has built underground. Most people picture a nuclear facility as a building, a reactor dome, cooling towers, something visible from the air. But Iran spent 2 decades engineering its most critical infrastructure to be invisible from above and invulnerable from above. Natanz is buried under 8 meters of reinforced concrete. Western intelligence estimates total protection at 25 to 30 feet of hardened material. That is within the penetration range of the GBU-57. But Natanz is not the facility that keeps American planners awake at night. Fordow is different. Fordow was built after Iran studied exactly what happened to targets in Iraq, Libya, and Serbia when American bombers arrived. Fordow was built specifically to survive an American strike. Here's what makes it unlike any other nuclear facility on Earth. Fordow is not under a building. It is not under a field. It is under a mountain. The Fordow plant is carved into the rock of Kolangiyeh Mountain near Qom. Iranian engineers excavated tunnels into the mountain itself and built enrichment halls inside the living rock. The facility sits under 80 to 90 meters of solid mountain, between 260 and 295 feet of rock, harder and denser than reinforced concrete. The GBU-57 is rated to penetrate 200 feet of reinforced concrete. Rock is not concrete, and 295 feet is not 200 feet. A former Pentagon strategic targeting officer told Defense News in 2024 something that stopped the entire room cold. Fordow is the target we spend the most time on. It's the one where the math doesn't fully close. The math doesn't fully close. From a man whose entire career was calculating what American weapons can and cannot destroy. That is the most alarming sentence in this entire story. And this is where it gets truly terrifying. A real American strike on Iran would be one of the most complex military operations in the history of air warfare. Before a single bomb-carrying aircraft crosses into Iranian airspace, American forces would need to destroy Iran's entire air defense network. Russian-supplied S-300 batteries, Bavar 373 missiles, early warning radars covering the entire country. But here's what makes this different from anything America has done before. The B-2 does not wait for that. Because of its stealth, its radar cross-section is approximately the size of a large bird, despite being the size of a commercial aircraft. The B-2 enters Iranian airspace while radar is fully operational. And Iranian radar simply does not see it. But 2 bombs are still not enough for Fordow. Destroying Fordow would require multiple B-2s delivering bombs in rapid sequence, each bomb following the crater opened by the previous one deeper into the mountain. At least 4 GBU-57s, delivered within seconds of each other. That means at least 2 B-2s over the same target at the same time. The logistics of that operation are unlike anything ever attempted. But here's what most people completely miss. Iran is not sitting still. Iran has spent 15 years studying American strike doctrine, and Iran has been quietly building the perfect response. First, Iran dispersed its nuclear program. Western intelligence believes significant enrichment capacity has moved to locations not publicly identified. The IAEA documented at least 3 instances since 2020 where Iran conducted nuclear activities at undeclared sites. If you cannot find it, you cannot bomb it. Second, Iran built what analysts call an underground city beneath the Zagros Mountains. Hundreds of miles of tunnels, hardened bunkers, protecting not just missiles, but the people and knowledge needed to rebuild a nuclear program from scratch, even if every surface facility is destroyed. And third, Iran's retaliation plan. Within hours of the first bomb hitting Iranian soil, Hezbollah's 150,000 rockets in Lebanon would be launched at Israeli cities. Houthi attacks in the Red Sea would escalate directly against U.S. naval vessels. Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria would activate against American bases housing 40,000 U.S. service members. A former U.S. Central Command planning officer told the Council on Foreign Relations, "We don't just plan for the strike. We plan for everything that happens in the 72 hours after the strike. And those 72 hours are where the real danger lives." the 72 hours after the strike. That is the calculation sitting at the center of every Pentagon meeting right now. Here is what almost nobody is explaining. The weapons at Diego Garcia are not a contradiction of the diplomacy in Oman. They are the reason the diplomacy in Oman is happening at all. Iran is sitting at that negotiating table because its leaders looked at what America moved to Diego Garcia. They calculated what GBU-57s do to Natanz. They concluded that the cost of not negotiating is higher than the cost of making a deal. But the talks are not going smoothly. Iran has been enriching uranium to 60% purity. Weapons grade requires 90%. The gap sounds large. It is not. Going from 60% to 90% requires a fraction of the time it took to reach 60% in the first place. The IAEA confirmed in early 2025 that Iran now has enough enriched uranium to theoretically produce material for several nuclear devices. The centrifuges do not stop spinning while diplomats talk. And there is a third player that nobody is fully accounting for. Israel does not have the GBU-57. Israel does not have the B-2. What Israel has is an absolute, non-negotiable red line, and a history of acting alone when it believes that line is being crossed. In April 2024, Israel launched the first direct strike on Iranian territory in history. It was a message. The message was, "We can reach you. Next time, we will not be demonstrating." But Israel cannot destroy Fordow. Its largest bunker-busting bomb, the GBU-28, penetrates 20 feet of concrete. Against 295 feet of mountain, it is essentially irrelevant. So Israel needs America to destroy Fordow. America needs Iran to stop enriching. Iran needs to believe stopping is worth it. And everyone in this triangle is watching everyone else. A senior Israeli defense official told Reuters in March 2025, "The moment we assess that Iran has made a decision to move toward a weapon, our response will not be a press conference." If Israel strikes first, with weapons that cannot reach Fordow, Iran survives with its most critical facility intact, retaliates across the entire region, and America is pulled into a war it did not choose to start. That is the scenario American military planners call the most dangerous possible outcome. Now let's talk about the number that nobody wants to say out loud. The Strait of Hormuz carries 17 million barrels of oil every single day, 17% of all global oil trade. Iran has threatened to close it in response to any military attack. Rand Corporation analysts estimated that even a 30-day disruption would push oil prices above $200 per barrel. Global economic damage would exceed $1 trillion within 90 days. And America's last two major Middle East conflicts, Iraq and Afghanistan combined, cost $2.3 trillion over 20 years. A war with Iran, with proxy forces in 7 countries and missiles that can hit every American ally in the region. Senior Pentagon officials have reportedly refused to put a cost estimate in writing. There is a reason the bombs at Diego Garcia are the last resort. So here is where we land. The weapons are positioned. The B-2s are within range. The targeting packages are ready. The Israeli red lines are real. The Iranian centrifuges are spinning, and the talks in Oman are at this moment the only thing standing between all of that preparation and all of that consequence. A senior arms control negotiator, a man who has sat across from Iranian officials at 5 separate rounds of nuclear talks, said something privately in Washington in April 2025 that has stayed with everyone who heard it. Every time we get close to the edge with Iran, something pulls us back. Not wisdom, not statesmanship, fear. Both sides are afraid of what comes next. And fear, as ugly as it sounds, is what keeps the peace. Fear is what keeps the peace. Think about that. The most sophisticated weapons ever built, positioned within striking distance of targets buried under mountains, aimed at facilities that could change the balance of world power. And the thing preventing their use is not a treaty, not a law, not a moral principle. It is fear. The B-2s at Diego Garcia are not just weapons. They are an argument. the most expensive, most destructive argument in human history. An argument that says, the cost of building a nuclear weapon is higher than you can afford to pay. Whether Iran finds that argument convincing, that is the question that will define the next decade. And that answer is being decided right now. So I want to ask you one thing. Do you think America will ultimately use military force against Iran, or will diplomacy find a way through? Drop your answer in the comments, because the people watching this video are exactly the kind of people who understand what is actually at stake. Before we begin,